The News Hour with Arnab Goswami.
What is the thin line between what is inflammatory content, what is defamatory content, what is derogatory content, especially when it comes to the internet? Why is the government waking up to make this dead issue go viral? We are debating that in about 2 minutes from now on the News Hour tonight. Kapil Sibal claims its latest move to filter content online does not amount to political censorship, that it has nothing to do with political censorship. That's what Mr. Kapil Sibal says. But the debate has divided opinion right down the middle, some slamming it as a violation of the freedom of speech. Others, like the left, saying social media needs to be regulated immediately. And then there's the argument on who decides what is offensive and what is not.
The debate over regulation of social media snowballing into a political controversy. The Congress quick to back the minister's call.
You are mistaken if you think that free speech means that you can swing your arm that wide and that much, even if my nose is on the way. Your arm swing must not connect with my nose, is the law.
Even those who first rejected the proposal eventually falling in line. The government finding support from the left.
नहीं वो जानकारी अगर हासिल करना है कि कौन से लोगों ने इस तरह का कंटेंट लगा उसमें डाला है उस साइट में, वो अलग बात है.
But not from the BJP.
So ultimately it's a very fine line, and when you have freedom of speech as such a pillar in our constitution, I think you should just let it be.
And while some frequent bloggers have chosen to either remain mum or sit on the fence in this very volatile debate,
there must be some self-regulation where content that is objectionable to some, there must be a redressal system.
Not all are buying the government's argument.
If you censor one site, another site will open up. So there's no point even, I don't even think this needs much discussion. It's probably not possible. Yes, some things are offensive on the internet, but you know, that's a different problem. But if you don't allow people to write, that becomes a much worse situation, and you can't.
In the fight between right to free speech and regulated content, questions remained. Why can't the government's assurance that it's not about political censorship not be taken at face value? Is it possible to set up a mechanism whereby internet companies respond immediately to insightful, dangerous content? Does the government's condition of asking for human screening, asking for a shutdown of social networking media? Is the argument that even deeply offensive content is a vibrant sign of democracy really valid? Bureau Report, Times Now.
Supporting the position Mr. Kapil Sibal has taken, and please correct me if I'm wrong tonight. Sunil Abraham is Executive Director, Center for Internet and Society. Thank you very much. Also joining him is Pradeep Gupta, who's Chairman of Cyber Media. Rajesh Charya is President of the Internet Service Providers Association of India on the News Hour tonight. And questioning the position that Mr. Sibal has taken, Chandan Mitra, Editor-in-Chief of the Pioneer and BJP MP, Sabir Bhatia, co-founder of Hotmail. My first question is to you, Ankit Fadia, who's one of India's best known, and as he describes himself, ethical hackers. What's your problem with the position Mr. Kapil Sibal has taken?
See, I'd love to give you my opinion, but unfortunately I'll first have to send my opinion to Mr. Kapil Sibal, and if he feels that it is okay and it has no derogatory comments or statements in it, only then will he actually allow us to air it. So you might have to wait for a few days while it goes through the whole government bureaucracy. I think it's ridiculous, the whole idea of trying to filter comments on Facebook or the internet. I'm shocked that it has come from somebody who's as tech savvy as Mr. Sibal, and there's no end to it. Tomorrow, somebody in the government will say that we want to start filtering out content on blogs or personal websites or even emails or chat rooms. So where does this all end? And India is a democracy. Everybody has the right to express their opinion and their viewpoints on any political party or any individual for that matter. If tomorrow India loses a cricket match, Dhoni will come out saying that, oh, please do not write anti-Indian cricket team statements on the internet. That's completely ridiculous. Shah Rukh Khan will tomorrow say that, oh, on Twitter, do not say anything against me. Where does this all end?
Where does this all end? But you see, Ankit, I'm not taking sides. But Mr. Sibal says this is not about the kind of innocent stuff that you're talking about. This is about the dangerous stuff. Right? Anyone wants to put on that point of view? Any of our Sunil Abraham, Pradeep Gupta, Rajesh Chadia, would you like to respond, any of you, to the points made by Ankit Fadia right at the start? Is it about the kind of material that he's talking about?
See, I mean, Facebook already has a medium for it. I mean, if there's something abusive, then people can click on a simple link, and if enough number of people report it as abusive, then Facebook does take out abusive content.
Yeah, but it takes time.
Even if regular individuals, if individuals have fake profiles on Facebook, you can report it and Facebook will remove it. So why does the government have to come in the middle and come up with their own policies?
Because, okay, here's one argument. I want the argument to come from the other side. Any of Sunil, Rajesh, or Pradeep, would you like to, any of you gentlemen like to respond to Ankit Fadia tonight? Go on.
Arnab, I'm not sure whether anyone here agrees with the Minister Sibal completely. In my own opinion, I think the proposal is technically impossible and also unconstitutional. If anybody has a right to decide on what is acceptable or unacceptable speech, it is the courts of India. It's not up to the government to decide, and it's not up to private players like Facebook and Google to decide. Freedom of expression is a constitutionally guaranteed right, and if there are limits on those rights, they either emerge from the law, the constitution, or they are placed upon us by courts. What the minister is asking for, a regime of preemptive censorship which goes beyond the post facto censorship that we have currently in place, is a terrible proposal, as Ankit Fadia rightly pointed out.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. I can see you. I see you warming up to the debate. Sunil, yes.
In regards to the Ankit's statement about the regulation or whatsoever about Shah Rukh Khan or Mahendra Singh Dhoni,
yes,
the main thing which we need to address is about the national security or any matter which is defamatory in terms a section of religious society or anybody. The minister wants to say that while we are the net savvy, when we are using net for our communication, we should be self-regulated and we should be controlled from our side. We should not put so much of things into the net which is going against any society, and in turn our country, which is a very peaceful country, a total peace is getting destroyed and the things are hoppered.
No, but why has this been discovered today? That's my point. Why has it been discovered today? Sabir Bhatia, would you like to join the debate, please, here today? Because social media was not invented yesterday.
Sure. Actually, my opinion is that, first of all, social media does a great job at regulating itself. Two, it is technically impossible to regulate people's personal opinions. What are you going to do? Delay people from expressing their opinions? Tomorrow, if India wins, a match against, say, Australia, if all of us want to celebrate and tweet about it, are you going to say that these tweets are not valid till the government approves them? So it's technically impossible to police this. Ideally, yes, we would like to, have everything go through a filter, but it just simply is not possible. And secondly, it's people's personal opinions. The internet already does a fabulous job of regulating it. If people post something that is offensive, immediately you will find 100 people who say, we dislike this.
But the damage would have been done. Damage would have been done. The argument will be, Sabir, that the damage would have been done. By the time you correct it, material that you put out can spark off a riot, can spark off a communal situation. There is no manner in which it can...
Who gets damaged?
Pardon me?
No. Are you saying one person's opinions will cause a riot to be formed? If 100 people say that is a stupid opinion of somebody, I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
No, but in the past...
If somebody goes and posts something derogatory...
in the past...
I mean, that is...
In the past, historically and globally, Sabir, haven't there been instances where one person's deliberate act of provocation which could, if it were to go viral on the internet, I'm playing devil's advocate, could have an even more insightful or dangerous impact. So what Kapil Sibal is saying, I'm not trying to stop you from having views on a cricket match or having views against a political leader. I am trying to ensure that nobody does the kind of mischief which can lead to religious or communal polarization in our country. Do your business, but don't do that.
It's simply not, it's simply technically not possible. I mean, that is why it is an idea that is dead on arrival. You simply cannot do it. And I say, like I told you, there are policing mechanisms on the internet where hundreds of people will report this as being derogatory, as abusive, and then that person will be shut off immediately.
Chandan Mitra, let me draw you in, please. This debate is getting interesting. Sabir Bhatia says it's going to all self-regulate. People will manage themselves. You don't need any censorship. What's your take?
Well, Arnab, I just heard you say that you are playing devil's advocate. I can understand that because the devil is not there on the show. I mean, I wish the Congress had also participated because they are devils, not just today. They have been devils forever. The emergency when pre-censorship was imposed and you had some class 3 babu sitting in newspaper offices, it was before your time, Arnab, but even I was a student, but I know those days. I used to visit the Times of India office from time to time, and one babu used to sit there and everything, he said, "Nahi, ye headline nahi chalega. This story is not all right. Change it." And ultimately it became, I mean, there was no news to be published in the papers. In fact, I remember as a student, I stopped subscribing to newspapers for 1.5 years.
What if in this situation, Chandan Mitra, again, I'm playing devil's advocate. Just don't, a question is to you, Chandan Mitra. So I'll say it, welcome to the debate. What if you are told that I will give you a clear definition of what is objectionable and what is not objectionable? I will lay it down in stone so that tomorrow if you criticize the Congress party, that doesn't amount to what is objectionable. Will that not work for you?
Come on, I believe that is the issue.
Arnab, if I may.
1 minute, let Chandan Mitra respond. Yes.
You cannot criticize the Congress. You can't put out pictures. You can't mobilize opinion for Anna Hazare. You can't do any of this because that is what the minister has apparently conveyed to the service providers and to representatives of Facebook. And
he hasn't said so at the news conference today. He has not said so at the news conference today. In fact, he's given examples to the contrary.
See, he may say whatever till the cows come home, but that is behind the idea is a jittery ruling establishment and who feel that this freedom has only led to a parallel kind of anti-government opinion being consolidated. They are behaving like the Chinese, who immediately, whenever they find anything like this, that's why they block Google, they block Facebook, they block Twitter. Pakistan does that. But, we are not Pakistan or China. For heaven's sake, thank God. And we are not going to allow India to become Pakistan or China.
Okay, interesting debate. Interesting debate. I can see that Pradeep Gupta wants to join in. Yes, Pradeep Gupta. Go ahead. You haven't come in so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Arnab, what Kapil Sibal is suggesting is absolutely bizarre. It is impractical. You have 2.5 crore Indians today who are on various social media sites. The amount of traffic that is getting generated is in very, very large exabytes every day, the amount of YouTube video. Any kind of guideline that can be given, it will be impossible for, you will need thousands of people sitting there, and there cannot be any kind of an objectivity which can come in any kind of a pre-screening. There are mechanisms for post-screening. Post-screening can be done very, very effectively. First is self-regulation, which comes from the internet community itself. Following that, you can trace out who posted that. You can go after them. You can throw the book at them. Because otherwise, there's, Chandan just now talked about China and Pakistan. Now, look what Pakistan tried to do when they just said that these 50 words are not allowed on SMS because they are sort of, pornographic in content. And the amount of joke that have moved around on Twitter on that particular account, and you can make perfectly sensible
I find
messages using those words.
No,
and you can make
Pradeep,
absolutely
Mr. Pradeep Gupta. Mr. Pradeep Gupta, here's an interesting situation tonight. Let me come in. One argument I'm finding from all those who are opposing Mr. Sibal is that it can't be done. No, 1 minute, Mr. Chandan Mitra. Everyone's arguing tonight, it can't be done.
Just one comment. Pradeep is entirely right. I believe in SMS in Pakistan, you can't mention the word love. The moment you say love, you say I love you. You can even send Mama, I love you. And
you can mention the word
hate. You are
hate.
deemed to be getting pornographic and it is deleted, it's blocked. I mean, come on. Which century are we living in?
Question is this tonight as I bring in Sohail Seth into this debate. Everyone's saying it can't be done. Should it be done? What is the bigger question? Can it be done or should it be done?
It should not be done.
It should not be done.
It should not be done. There's no way.
Yeah.
It should not be done.
And further, even if
there's no way.
Arnab, this is Sabir.
Yes, Sabir.
Even if let's say you did it to the leading sites, I guarantee you 100 new sites will come up that allow it to happen. How are you going to police them? Sitting in the US. Right. I mean, the internet is truly global. Let's say somebody starts a site in the Bahamas or in Gibraltar. How are you going to police it?
No.
Impossible. I mean, you will have to deploy the entire government just policing this. Don't they have more important problems like physical security of the people than try to focus on these kind of things?
The examples.
Which I said, it's working beautifully.
Okay. Yeah. Now Sohail said I want to draw into this debate. I might tell you, Sohail, you're in a very narrow minority potentially of one tonight of this debate, or maybe you've got 2 versus 4 on the other side. Question is, should this have been done? Is there any basis in this? Has this kind of pre-screening of the social media been successful anywhere in the world? Is there a single example where it has worked? Sohail Seth.
Okay, I want to raise 3 or 4 issues. I have a lot of admiration and time for Chandan. When governments want to inflict reprisals on free media, they do so in a myriad ways. Vinod Mehta's memoir, Lucknow Boy, talks eloquently about the fact that the Vajpayee government inflicted a huge amount of reprisals on both Outlook and Rajan Raheja. It's documented history. Number 2, I think the bigger debate is, do you want the internet to become a violative, pervert, and an anarchic tool, or you don't? How you do it or how you don't do it, I'm not a techie. Sabir Bhatia is better off. I have 3 or 4 points to make. Number 1, we live in increasingly intolerant times. What happens if there are morphed pictures of our gods and goddesses? You know how low our levels of tolerance are. Number 2, what happens if families, or if young people, if pedophilia finds its way on the net, then what happens?
Hasn't it already?
I'm asking you basic questions.
Hasn't it already?
No, hear me out.
No, hasn't it already, and why has action not been taken so far?
Therefore, the point is, do you want to use freedom? Do you want to use an absolute concept of freedom to violate every sanctity of society, or do you want to bring in some controls, which is not censorship, which is not pre-screening, but some level of self-regulation? I mean, the argument holds both ways. I respect what the Indian newspaper industry or what the Indian television industry is doing through self-regulation. So the point, Arnab, is not this or that. I'm saying there needs to be some measure of decorum and decency, especially as Sabir rightly says. As Sabir rightly says, I could set up a company in Gibraltar. I could actually wage a propaganda war within this country and divide communities, divide people.
Answer the question, Sohail. Answer the question before you came.
I was only answering a question.
The question tonight is this, Sohail: has pre-censorship of social networking sites proved successful anywhere in the world? Is there any proof?
No.
Is there any proof that social media sites have refused to act on complaints as and when they have been made? In fact, the maximum number of complaints from the government have been from India, I think.
No. 1 minute. Let me ask you a counter question. No, let me ask you a counter question. Does the absence... 1 minute, let me finish. Does the absence of self-regulation or laws allow a society to commit perversion? I'm asking you the counter question. Because there is nothing in the past, because you haven't created... 1 minute, hear me out.
What is the sudden realization of perversion? Or potential perversion? Why now?
That is something that you've got to ask the government. I'm talking merely as a person who sees the rightful freedom that the internet should and must provide, but with certain levels, not of control, but with certain levels of introspection. And I think that introspection is required.
Okay, we're getting some responses.
Facebook does an amazing job of reporting, of spamming, of abuse.
Absolutely, completely agree with you there, Suhail.
1 minute, responses.
Yes, indeed, and in fact, that is exactly what I was talking about. That post the entire event, there should be very, very speedy mechanisms for taking content off if it is abusive in nature. You should be able to identify who were the people behind it, and you should be able to throw the book at them. So, keep all of that.
And create
don't
deterrence.
do anything content going there.
No, I completely agree. I think you need to create deterrence to prevent such violent abuse of a freedom that is so well enjoyed by the entire world.
Here too.
Remember what Lord Bugner said, the eminent British jurist. One man's freedom ends at another man's
but Suhail, you have to be practical about it. You have to be practical about it.
Fine.
The question is, as I go to Chandan Mitra, one sec, Chandan Mitra, yes.
Yeah. You see, I want to first and foremost tell my friend Suhail is that some of the offensive comments, offensive within quotes, that he often makes on television programs, that will be the next step. You allow Kapil Sibal as intervention in the social media. Next, Suhail, I'm telling you that you will have to watch your words, whatever you say. And on the subject of television...
I said nothing offensive. I've spoken in the Queen's English.
I said quote unquote offensive. I don't find them offensive, but many people do, let me tell you. But secondly, I think very important, on the context of television, you see, there are some channels which do not have any downlinking permission in India, and they have been denied, are freely telecasting in this country. Most of them, mind you, are religious channels. Has the government done anything about it? Don't you see the potential of communal hatred being spewed via television? Now, why are you suddenly concerned that Facebook and other social media, most of whom have internal mechanisms to weed it out on one person's complaint? 1 minute, hear me out. On one person's kind of complaint, their kind of post can be taken off. The person doing that can be blocked from the site. There are some mechanisms, but there are channels that are spewing venom day in and day out, 24/7. And what have you done about them? And now suddenly you get very concerned because some morphed photograph of your icons has appeared. I mean, really, I tell you, hypocrisy at its worst.
The question also is tonight. The question is, Chandan Mitra, politicians are sensitive, but that's not the question. Question tonight, I have another valid question. There are so many questions tonight.
Thank you.
The other question tonight is, can religious and political leaders, can religious and historical leaders be treated on same lines when it comes to allegedly defamatory content? Just one of those questions tonight. These are some of the more fundamental questions. Ankit is quite enjoying your responses, Suhail, and I want to go to Ankit Fadia tonight. Ankit, in your introductory comments, you were very sarcastic and cynical today about this move of the government. You heard Suhail's take tonight. Do you think Suhail's argument is taking India in the league of authoritarian regimes like China, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia? Or will that be
No, I've not said anything like that.
No, 1 second. Suhail,
you all are putting words in my mouth.
Suhail,
quote unquote.
Suhail, there is a report of 2006 of Reporters Without Borders, which is a Paris-based international NGO which advocates freedom of the press. I'm sure, Ankit, you know about it. According to the RSB, there's a list called the Internet Enemy List. I'm sure Sabir knows about it. This list includes countries like China, Cuba, Iran, Myanmar, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan and Vietnam. Do we want to get into that exalted list?
They have built an entire army of computer hackers whose job is to keep blocking websites every single day. There's no Facebook, there's no Twitter in China, and even most of the YouTube videos cannot be watched in China. But speaking on behalf of the entire computer hacking community in the world, I guarantee you that no matter what kind of filtering mechanism the government comes up with, there's always a way to bypass those filtering mechanisms. And there's no technology, no software available which can read any photograph or a video or comment and decide whether it's offensive or not. Because the software or technology cannot understand sarcasm. And the government also needs to develop a sense of humor, because this whole issue has happened because on Facebook there was this cartoon that was going around of Sonia Gandhi controlling Manmohan Singh with in the form of a puppet. It's fine. I mean, these are cartoons which are any kind of popular media. You will have celebrities, you will have political parties that are mocked, and that's part of life.
I'm looking at the solutions. Solution tonight is, let's say.
The solution is, I completely agree with Sabir Bhatia. The solution are the people. You don't need to police the Indian youth. It's not as if there are 2-year-old infants who are on the internet. Anybody who posts a comment which is anti-Indian or anti-religious against any particular religion, there are constantly people who will come and moderate that comment and give an opposing point.
Right.
So it's called the riot mentality on the internet.
No, but here's a question. It takes up. Is there a rule? Is there a rule? So is there a rule whereby if there is offensive content, it has to be removed in a certain time? Sabir Bhatia, is there such a rule?
No, there is no such rule, but there is a rule if it is reported as abuse, and if there are lots of people reporting some content, individual opinion as abuse, as abusive, it is taken off. So the self-policing or the self-regulation that Sohail Seth referred to is actually working on the internet today, and we the people are doing it.
That's right. Sohail, that should
the government has gotten scared.
Let me just add to that.
No, 1 minute.
Let me just add to that.
I think Ankit made an important point.
Need to play that role. What the internet companies need to do, if the internet companies need to Yahoo, Google, they must cooperate and they must make information available so that in case there is any kind of action that needs to be taken subsequently, that can be. So, some of the internet companies have taken that sort of a stand that, well, we are an American corporation, or, the rules which are applicable here are not applicable as far as US is concerned, and so on. That is something that possibly
so that is the point.
Will have to be done.
That's not the point.
So that is the point. Because, one second, American companies, are they not looking at local sensitivities?
Please do not judge. I'm sorry. Please do not judge Indian culture sensitivities by American standards. 3 years ago, that very country allowed a priest in the middle of North America to actually threaten to burn the Quran. Would you want that kind of stuff happening in this country? Will you be able to quell it? Will you be able to create tolerance levels?
It won't happen here.
No, see, Pradeep, my friend, I hope it never happens.
No, it will never happen. We saw the
That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm trying to say is that
today is the 90th anniversary of the demolition of the Babri Masjid.
We are responsible people, Sohail.
No, but how
we are responsible people.
How do you guarantee that?
Cartoons never got reproduced.
How do you guarantee that? Chandan Mitra, that's exactly the position here being taken by the government tonight. How do you guarantee that something does not go wrong? And by the time you correct it, it will be too late.
We are responsible people.
It is ironic.
India is a tolerant society, and sufficient amount of self-regulation is exercised by the entire media. I think the government is
demolish this
because
argument.
They are being cornered,
and
like Rajiv Gandhi wanted to bring in the press bill, and now Mr. Sibal wants to bring in this internet bill. Every few years they try to do it and try and censor. They haven't got over it. But grow up. I tell you, in the 80s, there would be a poster. I remember the poster. The poster was of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher. Ronald Reagan dressed as Clark Gable and Margaret Thatcher as Mae West. And the caption went, "Gone with the Wind 2." She promised to follow him to the end of the world. He promised to organize it. And there was a nuclear umbrella going up at the back. And this was an anti-nuclear poster. It was up all over Europe and America. The governments were more sensitive those days. They got kind of jittery. They denounced all this. But listen, people have to grow up. This is the age of democracy, and more people are participating in democracy. Democracy is not about elections alone. We have seen it in India. These things will happen. Let us not try to, curb people's creativity. Content which is offensive, content which hurts, religious sentiment and kind of as a potential create law and order disturbances? Sure, but you must remember.
No, how far is too far?
Block out SMS.
How far is too far?
Block out the net.
How far is too far? No,
Please.
Chandamitra, Kapil Sibal also says if some material cannot be published, cannot be telecast on television, then you also must put restrictions on such material which may go against national security, incite religious sentiment when it goes to the internet. If you want to correct it, it may be too late. Sohail Seth has been waiting, he's raising his hand. One minute, here is other side. Here is other side.
Can't control television. Why are you doing this to the net?
Sohail.
Which you can't do anyway.
Sure,
you can't even control television.
Isn't, Arnab, hypocrisy is a great leveler of history. It's ironic that Chandan, gives so much of credence to India's tolerance when we are actually celebrating in itself is a disastrous word. We are observing the 19th anniversary of the demolition of the Babri Masjid. In 1984, we targeted the Sikhs. In 2001, the Muslims. We are talking about our tolerance. Let's not pay credence where it isn't due. A, B. You and I both know that post 9/11,
we have tolerated
one of the executive orders. Hear me out, please hear me out. Chandan, I heard you out. One of the executive decisions that George W. Bush was that there would be no visuals of people, jumping off from the World Trade Towers, except for the first few moments that those visuals were telecast. That there'd be no visuals of body bags. Societies often regulate themselves in order either for social cohesiveness or, more importantly,
1 minute, Sohail,
to create some emotional control. No one is arguing that and I agree with Ankit, hackers will and must find a way of detouring any such activity. And as he rightly says, there is maturity. But where there is immaturity and anonymity, what should you do?
I think factually some questions must be kept in mind. I want to get Sabir into the debate. Question is tonight, I will not take names, but I will mention certainly that in September 2009, there was an Orkut community which had posted offensive comments about a politician who had died sometime earlier. I am told Google acted, Sohail mentioned this, acted not just by removing the content, it removed the entire user group. Similarly, in 2009, one particular political party which is sensitive, YouTube videos were going on. Is that political party good or bad? Google removed the entire video. So, it's not as if these companies are saying we will not listen to anyone, we will defiantly do this. Why was action taken now? That's one of the principal questions. Sabir, you're hearing this long argument being put by Sohail Seth tonight. You've been listening on very quietly. Is there a solution you have in mind? Maybe reduce the response time given to internet companies to control offensive content. Is that a solution? Give them 1 hour to remove the material.
No, I don't think that is there is no way. Who determines what is right and what is wrong other than the internet itself?
Correct.
But I think one of your audiences did mention that all information must be made available to government. That means intruding on people's privacy, and that is an absolute no-no. I think the question that we have to ask ourselves is, do we want to become more like China and Iran, or do we want to become more like the West, whether it's the US, France, Italy, you name it, where people enjoy basic freedoms of expression? And I am not saying that I am for publishing of offensive material. But at the same time, India is a democracy where people have opinions.
Yes.
And if people's opinions are derogatory, offensive, the internet has mechanisms of its own to regulate itself. We cannot practically, put on more onus on the internet to remove content. It's simply not possible to do it in a technologically feasible way.
No, the argument is human beings must screen the content, not machines. I don't know whether that argument holds. Sabir, what do you think? I mean, human beings are also going to bring their own subjective biases while screening material. One human being may say one thing on the same material.
More often than...
Yes, Sabir?
By and large, we're a peaceful society. And by and large, people regulate themselves. And I've seen this happen time and time again. When people have posted derogatory comments on anything, you find 100 people immediately jumping on it and either reporting it as abuse or shutting that individual off. That is self-regulation, and it is working beautifully. I don't know what offensive material for a brief period of time that our minister saw.
Arnab, the best example is Wikipedia. Wikipedia has actually less number of errors than any encyclopedia in the world. And anybody in the world can come and write derogatory comments about any comment or any topic on Wikipedia. But why is Wikipedia so accurate? So the government does not need to intervene. No company needs to intervene. The people, the internet citizens will manage all this very well. I think the reason why the government has suddenly woken up is because the government realizes that the main reason why the Anna Hazare movement became so popular was because of social networking media.
So you don't buy that
India
argument?
is the youngest country in the world.
No, but Ankit, Kapil Sibal said this is not about the Anna Hazare movement. So suppose tomorrow the government was to try and censor something about the Anna Hazare movement,
Sibal can
go
say
back
whatever
to
he
Mr. Sibal and
wants.
say you changed your position. Because he
Mr.
said I
Sibal
won't.
can say whatever he wants, but the political parties, the government is scared. They realize that the Indian youth is using social media, is using internet to voice their opinions against the government. Indian youth is fed up with the government, and the government is trying to take away the power, trying to take away the loudspeaker that Indian youth have today.
Purely
this is
political.
My problem with this whole policy.
Purely political argument coming out. Sohail said that it's purely political. Let me take. Yes, Sabir.
Yeah, one other thing. The revolution in Egypt would not have happened had it not been for social media, and not just in Egypt but all over the Middle East. The question you have to ask is, would you have wanted repressive regimes in these Middle Eastern countries to have continued or not?
I think it's a very valid question. Here's Sohail said, since you're making this strong defense tonight, let me ask you a question. Suppose there are two statements on the internet.
I'm giving you...
No, I'm asking you. I'll take my question tonight. Don't censor my question, Sohail.
Yeah, we are not missing the minister on this program because Sohail is very powerfully and ardently holding forth the minister's position.
If the minister is watching the Newshour tonight, I'm sure he's taking everyone's point of view in. Question tonight is this. Suppose the government is faced with a situation. There are two statements. One is, I hate XYZ political party. And the second statement is, I hate XYZ political party because it is anti-a religion. Is it possible for the government to differentiate between these two statements?
No.
Then what are we talking about?
You know, I think again we are just in order to extend the Newshour. The argument is very simple. As Sabir Bhatia rightly said, one man's offensive material is another man's delightful quandary. So let's establish that.
Doesn't that defeat your argument?
The point, no one is making the point that opinions shouldn't be formed or opinions should be translated. I think Ankit made a very important point. He says that machines are incapable of deciphering sarcasm, and neither human beings or certain categories of human beings. I'm asking you a very fundamental...
Better equipped, is he?
Yeah. Let me finish my argument. I'm just asking you, Arnab, forbid, there is a particular religious leader, forget politics for a moment. There is Lord Ram or Jesus Christ or whoever, and is shown in despicable light. It spreads virally through social media, creates a huge amount of issues in terms of law and order. Who would you blame? Would you blame the freedom or would you blame the abuse of the freedom for that violation of the sanctity of some private treaty with his or her God?
I will let Chandan respond to that. You're trying to draw me into the debate, but I will let Chandan respond to that.
No, I don't want to get drawn because I think Sohail, to my utter dismay, is taking such an undemocratic position, which is contrary. This is not himself. I don't know what has prompted him to do this.
Chandan,
I'm asking, right to
Chandan,
support Kapil.
You're one of the...
It is your
you're one of the
right.
most... No, I don't have to support.
I have known...
You're one of the...
I have known, I wouldn't have expected him to do this. But anyway, besides the point, Arnab has asked me a question. Let me just answer that. Look, the point is that if people wanted to incite violence and create trouble, all they had to do was put up M.F. Hussein's portrayals in large numbers, and it would have created a lot of dissonance. But there are ways and means of taking these out. There is self-regulation, there's self-content. The moment a complaint goes, they act. At least in the 3 years that I've been on Facebook, I have rarely, if ever, come across something which is seriously offensive. It hasn't. It hasn't reached my mailbox.
Sure it hasn't.
Therefore, I mean, if it has in other people's case, I don't know.
I want to quote.
Think what we have is perfectly all right. I would rather trust or know those people who run these social networking sites than a government babu sitting in their offices and reading through every picture and saying ye nahi chalega, wo nahi chalega. That is not acceptable in India's mature democracy.
And Sohail,
yes, Pradeep.
Sohail, just to add to that, as far as viral spread is concerned, usually if it is abusive material, you will find that very little viral spread happens. Okay, so there is that self-correction mechanism that takes place.
No,
the X number of people who send it to Y, if X into Y, one viral does not happen. And that is exactly the kind of a thing that happens.
But I think in spite of Chandan questioning my independence, he himself said it, that there will be self-regulation. We have seen it in the case of even Hussain. Even to this day, despite him having died 7 months ago, you can't hold an exhibition of Hussain without some fringe lunatic elements destroying it because he apparently hurt.
Okay, here's therefore I put the question to Chandan Mitra. Chandan Mitra, that question is put to you. Do you support tonight, please, do you support, say, Hussein's right to art at that point of time?
No, I'm sorry. I don't support the offensive painting that Hussain did. I mean, the rest of it is all right, but the offensive paintings.
Now it's offensive for him.
We have debated.
It's offensive for him.
And therefore, I think those paintings have to be off. And similarly, on the internet, anybody who abuses another person's religion or belief must be taken off.
Isn't that a complete
Goswami? It is QED.
It's a complete contradiction. However, I want to bring to your notice, gentlemen.
It's a QED.
There is a legal case.
Chandan Mitra himself.
There is a legal case.
Chandan Mitra himself decries an artist's right to opinion making on your program. Me for being emergency-like.
One second.
It's entirely different. I'm sorry. You want
Sohail, it can also be argued.
I'm saying there are people
one second. It can also be
who have insulted other people's
gentlemen.
No, their works cannot be exhibited in public.
The question is by Sohail's point. Can also be argued that the fault lay with Hussain for putting out those paintings which is free speech rather than those who drove him to exile, those who were opposing free speech. My question tonight, I want to raise a point.
Nobody drove him
1997.
Look, I don't want to discuss Hussain. Man is dead and gone. I don't want to
1997.
Do this all over again. But I was only citing an example
1997.
that I'm afraid there are those things that have to be censored out
Mitra,
and they are being censored out.
I want to tell you what the US Supreme Court said.
Look, what I mean, really, I don't want to get into the Hussain debate. The man is dead. I don't want to.
Sure, you don't. But
this controversy alive again.
This is for Sabir Bhatia and for Pradeep. This is what the U.S. Supreme Court said in Janet Reno versus the American Civil Liberties Union, 1997. It said a government can no more restrict a person's access to words or images on the internet than it could be allowed to snatch a book out of a reader's hands in a library or cover a statue of a nude in a museum. In other words, the US Supreme Court said the internet is a free speech zone. That is the precedent that was set, Sabir Bhatia. I think that's where we bring the debate to a conclusion tonight. That was what was decided in America in 1997. Maybe we need to learn a lesson from what the Supreme Court said in America. Sabir, what do you think?
I completely, wholeheartedly agree. I mean, the internet is no more different than being in our own home. The only difference is we are given a microphone to broadcast our opinion. But that same microphone is given to every other individual. If you find something offensive, you write against it, you blog against it.
Sohail,
equal opportunity.
Yes, Sohail, one question. You take this question. Take this question, Sohail. Last question. If you support Hussein's right to art, Sohail said, why don't you support free internet opinion?
Of course I support it. You've again got the wrong end of the stick. I said, and I agreed with, I think it was Pradeep, the gentleman who made the point, that you must have post-screening which then creates deterrence, either through demonstrable punishment or whatever. But to have freedom being abused just because it is freedom, to my mind, is illogical and immature.
Gentlemen, Gentlemen, this is a big debate. Mr. Kapil Sibal has started. We've taken it forward on the Newshour tonight. I want to thank all of you for joining me. I think the lines between what is inflammatory, defamatory, derogatory on the internet will be debated for a very long time. Thank you, gentlemen, for that debate. On the
Samsonite presents the Newshour with Arnab Goswami.